What's up, everybody? My name is Tucker. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Boston Celtics. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like rating on it. Check out my socials in the description as well, and let's go ahead and get started. So this has not been an ideal start to the season for the Boston Celtics. It was a bit of a weird offseason in the first place with Danny Ainge being removed from his primary role in the front office, Brad Stevens going from a head coach and a very, very good one at that, to being the head guy in the front office and then hiring a new coach. And between that and kind of the way that the last year went, there's just been a bit more drama and tension around the Celtics than we've typically become accustomed to, and that has continued going into this season. Prior to the year, I was relatively optimistic about Boston just because I felt like their roster was more streamlined. I feel like it was a roster that made more sense for how to play basketball now in the NBA, and I felt like it was a roster that could do a lot of things. They had top-end talent in Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. They had secondary scorers and playmakers in Dennis Schroeder, who was one of the better values of the entire offseason after a weird free agency period for him. They've got decent wings like Brown, Tatum, of course, but then also outside of those guys, I thought someone like Aaron Nesmith would have a good season. And then the bigs, they have Robert Williams, they have Al Horford. There's just pieces here that, to me, made a lot of sense together. It just seemed like there was a lot of good things happening with the head coach as well. And now they've started the season like 2-5, with one of those wins coming against a Houston team that's barely even trying to win basketball games, and the other coming against Charlotte, who's been very good to begin the season, but still, nobody really thought that Boston would be starting the season 2-5, and that has culminated in some comments that I want to talk about from Marcus Smart after yesterday's games. He said, I'm not going to read the whole quote here, but he said, "Every team knows that we're going to go to Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and every team is programmed to stop Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I think everybody's scouting report is to try and make those guys pass the ball, and they don't want to pass the ball, and that's something that they are going to learn. To open up the court for them later in the game, where they don't always have to take those tough shots or some tough matchups when they do get the one-on-one and see a trap, just reading that is something that we've been asking them to do, and they're learning." He went on to say that there's only so much I, Smart, can do without the ball in my hands. I just stand in the corner. Okay, lot to unpack there. My first thought here is, I totally get what Marcus Smart is saying. Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, both in their careers, you could definitely have accused them of having tunnel vision and been correct. Brown, I think, is a bit more of an issue in that area than Tatum for the most part, but yes, they're still young wings that really want to score the basketball and have not significantly improved as playmakers in the way that you would like them to over the past couple of years, but you would expect them to moving forward. Here's my thing, though, if I'm having a real honest conversation with Marcus Smart. One, you standing in the corner is about the best use of you offensively. No matter what you think your skill set is as a pick and roll player, as a playmaker, whatever it is, the best thing that you can do for us on offense is stand in the corner and space the floor. And it would also be helpful if you weren't shooting under 30% from three on over 6 3-point attempts per game. I'm just saying. So I get it. I get what he's saying, and he wants to be utilized more within the offense, and he wants the primary guys to be better playmakers. But that comment carries more weight from a guy that's not struggling the way that Marcus Smart is and actually has a better use within the offense than what he's currently doing. The real issue for me with those comments is it almost feels like a slight against the coach, because there's other comments within these that are basically insinuating that the offense is not structured properly and there's not enough movement and there's too much standing around, which I do think that there is an argument for, and especially in a scenario in which you're going from one coach to another is potentially very concerning. I just don't understand the point of this being said publicly if you're Marcus Smart, because again, I think it's probably just going to add to the tension in the situation. And this is a guy that we talked about yesterday who's not playing particularly well and could potentially be a trade option for Boston this season, as they're a team that I think coming into the year had the expectation they were going to be one of the top teams in the East, and that has not come to fruition so far. But regardless of the offensive struggles, I actually don't think that's the biggest issue with this team right now. They're not a fantastic offensive team, and Jayson Tatum shooting under 40% from the floor is not ideal. But defensively, there are significant issues. And it's a bit odd because when you watch them and then you pair that together with their defensive stats, they don't appear to be an awful defensive team. Statistically, they're kind of middle of the pack in most defensive metrics. However, in defensive rating, they're one of the worst defensive teams in the league. And I do currently think they're one of the worst defensive teams in the league. And the reason why that is because they can't stop fouling. They're giving up the most free throw attempts in the league in a league, by the way, that the free throw rate across the NBA is down significantly this season because of the adjustments that they've made to the rules and how they are not counting fouls. And in a variety of different scenarios, Boston is the one team that has continually struggled to keep teams off the line. And so there are a lot of improvements to be made here if Boston wants to get to the expectation level that a lot of other people, and they had for themselves coming into the season. I think it begins on the defensive end of the floor, not getting into the bonus early, staying disciplined at the rim, making sure that you're contesting shots without fouling on the perimeter. All of these things have been a significant issue. And the nice thing about that is something you can absolutely help. You can be more disciplined, you can be more focused, you can be more active and engaged defensively, so you're not losing your assignment and a guy just getting free to the rim and having to foul or have a take foul in transition because you're committing a turnover. You can help that. You can also help Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown scoring the ball well. Jaylen Brown's numbers actually are pretty good. Tatum is the one that's shooting under 40%, and even though, his per game numbers still look good, efficiency-wise, it hasn't been very good. But I'm going to go ahead and bet on the fact that Tatum and Brown are going to be really good for the entirety of the season. So the focus should be on the other guys, because my concern lies much more with them than it does Brown and Tatum, because I know those guys are talented enough to be very, very good this season. So Smart needs to start shooting the ball better. There are other guys within the rotation, same thing. And as long as they kind of as long as the cohesion of this group increases and they feel like a basketball team that's starting to play together, I don't have a ton of concerns about Boston moving forward, apart from comments like these being said in public for no real reason. Now, my guess is this is a team that within the front office, within the organization, views themselves as one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference and is not going to settle with a 7th, 8th seed again, similar to what they did last year, because last year was very weird for a variety of reasons, and the Kemba thing was weird, and now they've made these roster adjustments, and they've kind of made it more clear what the hierarchy is within the team. And even though they lost Horford once and they got it back, they lost Kyrie, they lost Kemba, they lost Gordon Hayward, there's still plenty of talent here, and I do think that they see themselves as a contending team. And so if they do continue to struggle and Boston ends up at like 5-12 through the first handful of games of the season, I do think it would be possible to see some moves, whether it be a Marcus Smart trade, whether it be shuffling the bigs, whether it be going out and getting another wing, whether it be using future assets in order to improve this team. Even with the youth of Brown and Tatum, I think they recognize that those two guys together are good enough to do a lot of good things for them this season and not be a team that has as bad of a record as they do. In relation to the Brown and Tatum thing, I do think it's fair at certain points to start to question not if Brown and Tatum specifically work well together offensively, but just in general, if the dynamic of having two wings like this work together. We've talked about this before with Kawhi and Paul George, where the offense doesn't always look super fluid. Does it work? Does it work to have two wings that are not either one of them incredible playmakers and are similar in terms of their offensive games with their relatively ISO-heavy wing guys? Is that a sustainable model for a really, really good NBA offense? And that's something that we're going to continue to evaluate. It's hard to make that decision when guys are still so young, but it is something worth asking. However, as long as both these guys are happy in Boston, I don't foresee any kind of super dramatic trade thing. If someone tries to tell you otherwise, I would be very, very surprised if that actually comes true. Until we start getting reports and rumors and rumblings about, oh, Jayson Tatum's not happy, Jaylen Brown's not happy, they don't think they can coexist. Until this becomes like a Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid thing, I'm not overly concerned about it. It's just something, as with everything we've talked about in this video, to keep an eye on for Boston. Can they improve defensively? Can they stop fouling? Can they start hitting more shots from three-point range? Can Tatum turn around his efficiency? Can these two guys figure out a way to work together? Because I know that the case can be made that if neither guy is a really good passer, you're really limited in terms of your really positive outcomes. It's either they make the shot or they miss the shot. There is no, oh, we're getting other guys involved, really great playmaking ability around, we're moving the ball around. I understand that kind of the ceiling of what could possibly happen is capped, but still, I'm optimistic not only about Boston, but about that partnership moving forward, and I don't anticipate anything super dramatic until things go really, really poorly, which I don't know if that's all that realistic of an expectation. So we'll continue to keep an eye on Boston, see what happens for them the rest of the year, but it's certainly been nothing short of a dramatic start to the season for the Celtics. But that is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you guys very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, be sure to check out the boxes on screen. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe as well for more videos just like it, and you can check out my socials in the description as well. With all those things said, once again, my name is Tucker. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.